Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of commodities, work our way through the dollar, yields, precious metals, and commodities and ETFs that I follow. I'm going to interject my financial opinions, and if you need any help with anything, check out finding-value.com. We've got discount for coupon code if you'd like to join our community. And next week, we've got a 7 a.m. Saturday Mountain Standard Time question and answer session where you can ask me questions directly. All right, guys, let's dive in and see what's going on today. We've got the DXY holding steady today. We still got some pretty good downside momentum from the strong selling pressure candlestick there. So still makes me think that this could potentially go lower so I'll say it could potentially go lower with the DXY. It really depends on what yields do here. So when we go and look at yields, here's the 2-year, and we popped out of this support level. We popped below it, some pretty strong selling pressure. But today, we're getting some pretty good volatility out of yields. It's up 2% on the 2-year. Now, what's important here is if this starts to dive bomb lower, we very well could get a slowdown in the market as the yield curve uninverts. But it's not, we've broken to the downside. We could potentially come up and roll back over, which is a potential possibility, or we just continue to roll on lower. Right now, we're seeing a lot of things kind of sell off across the board. It makes me think that we could potentially have a little bit lower yields. So this is something to watch if yields really start to dive to the downside. What that means is people are running into bonds. Potentially we get a slowdown in the market. The 10-year also ripping higher today. But again, I want to see where this goes. I want to see if this thing comes up and then rolls back over, or if we are still in an uptrend and this is all that this little basically pattern could muster. Maybe they're in there buying bonds too. I don't know. Tough to say. But overall, this is in an uptrend fashion, and we're getting a little bit of a selling pressure move here. And I just want to see if this is going to roll back over to get further selling pressure. If that's the case, it's most likely people worried about a slowdown recession in the market, and they are running into bonds. But again, I might be premature in stating that because, if you back out, we still have a good run higher. And usually if these things do want to turn, it takes a little bit of time for it to turn. So that's what we're going to be watching over the next few weeks. Looking at the 30-year yield, it's the same thing as the 10-year. We basically squeezed up, broke to the downside, and maybe we come back and roll back over. Difficult to say. We'll have to watch it. TYX TNX ratio it's still inverting, which means the 10-year went up more than the 30-year, and then it inverted. So gold doesn't necessarily like rising yields and a curve that inverts a little bit. TLT down a little bit. If we were going into this recession, we should see yields come back up, or bond prices come back up, yields come back down. So bond prices, they were down today. And is this just a small counter move to the upside? Again, we're going to have to wait and see what this looks like over the next few weeks. Gold down. It does look like we could extend a little bit lower with the candlestick that we got today. That is a bearish engulfing, which means we could head a little bit lower. Yields moving up, dollar moving up, and the yield curve inverting a little bit. That's not really in the favor of gold today, at least. I do think gold looks good. It's sitting on top of basically everything. We could sell off a teeny bit before heading higher. And I'm still bullish on gold, and everything still looks good. We're still sitting on top of patterns, and this may take some time to play out. We may even come all the way back to 1925, and that trend is still intact. Silver down a little bit. We're right underneath the neckline of this, and we'll see if we can punch through. We're waiting for yields to basically relax is what we're waiting for. Platinum down a little bit more, doing a full retest on this breakout here. So we're doing a full retest back to support. Palladium down as well. Lots of selling pressure across the board, and I don't think this is ready yet for palladium. XAU to gold ratio down slightly, down 0.34%. Again, we've got some work cut out for the gold and silver mining companies. We got to start breaking above a lot of resistance that we've got. CRV index slightly higher, ever so slightly, and we're right at support resistance right here. We've got the CRV index versus the S&P 500, which is down ever so slightly. And again, I think in the bigger, longer picture view, this is going to work its way on up. Short term, getting a little bit of selling pressure. Maybe we've got a little bit more of a pullback left in this thing. GDX down a little bit, right at resistance. GDXJ at resistance, down a little bit. These could be considered bloody noses. They easily could continue higher if the price of gold, silver start to break their patterns and we get lower yields. SILJ in the same situation, a little bit of selling pressure today. And underneath resistance, we got some work cut out to get above all this resistance. Crude oil, it's up 0.4%, momentum down a little bit. Right at support resistance is where we are at $80, about $80, $81. There's good heavy support all through here. And that's where we are sitting and residing at the moment. TTF getting some selling pressure. Maybe it has something to do with weather. Again, we're sitting above support. So we could come back to the 42 level if we decide to go down there. Natural gas down a little bit as well. Well, down a lot today, almost 7%. But still above key support levels. So we're getting some volatility around here, maybe due to weather again. XOP down. XOP, yeah, you know me. Down 2.7%. A little bit more selling pressure today. I know we're underneath that neckline. And we're getting a little bit of resistance trying to break through this thing. We just haven't mustered the right market condition. And with people worrying about recession, I mean, perhaps they're selling their oil holdings until they start to get more confidence in the markets or something. I don't know what the reasoning is, but it could very well be something like that. Surprisingly, this is a very bullish candlestick here. I'm surprised we didn't really even come up and give a wick or anything. Kind of a weird day today, and all the selling pressure kind of across the board. OIH, the energy service company, is also selling off, much like XOP. And again, it's just a waiting game at this point, trying to wait for the right market conditions to swing back around for energy to move on up. But everything's in an uptrend. We're in an uptrend channel. Getting a little bit of selling pressure here. We've got, looks like some resistance coming through here. And we can throw a trend, maybe perhaps something like that. And we'll see if we can break out of this thing, whichever direction we go. Sprott Physical Uranium Trust down 2.2%. A little bit of selling pressure going on these past 4 trading candlesticks. We're still in an uptrend, but we're getting a little bit of selling pressure here. And we could see maybe a little bit more of a pullback until this thing turns around. And you just got to be patient and wait. URA also experiencing selling pressure. Pretty strong selling pressure day, and it finished quite strong towards the downside of the day. So there could be further selling pressure ahead of us in the short term. And that extends to URNM and also URNJ with strong selling pressure days and the selling pressure extending towards the end of the day. So we could continue to sell off even into tomorrow. And then we'll see what the candlestick brings us tomorrow. TAN also selling off. This is a bearish engulfing. We could head lower in TAN. I'm not saying that we just beeline it lower, but in the short term, we'll have to see what this candlestick looks like next. But maybe we only fill this gap here, and that's it. COPX, another one with a bearish engulfing. We could head a little bit lower here in the short term, right up against resistance for the copper miners. Lithium up a little bit, 0.85%, but momentum's heading a little bit down. Momentum is definitely down at this time, and we have not broken, at least as far as I can tell. I don't think we've broken any trend, major trend here or anything like that. At least not yet. REMX also throwing in another bearish engulfing-ish type pattern, and those generally work their way down in the short term. S&P 500, it looks like we're up at resistance here. And we can draw kind of a support resistance line through this entire level through here. And you can see we're underneath that resistance, and we'll see if we roll back over. If we roll over, what I would expect to see is lower yields and people running to safety if we're going to get a pullback in the market. NASDAQ also getting a little bit higher, but it's basically a sideways day right at resistance. And we'll see if we can punch through all this. Commercial banks, higher rates, don't like it. We could see a little bit of a pullback depending on where rates go. I mean, most of these charts are more or less an extension of what rates are doing. Rates were up strongly today. Regional banks are down. The home builders are down. And the S&P and NASDAQ basically went sideways, with a couple of other sectors also heading lower. So this is more or less just a derivative of the yields going up and down. Emerging markets look good. They've broken up to the upside. They look pretty strong, actually. And we're going to come into this other resistance area-ish. We're right in the resistance area that was previous. XHB down a little bit. Again, those strong yields, probably not liking the 10-year moving up like that. It's going to filter into mortgage rates. MOO also heading lower. MOO agribusiness ETF is trading much like the NASDAQ and S&P 500. We've had a pretty big pullback here, but it looks okay. It's not a reversal candlestick. We're trying to put in a bottom, and we can move around, sideways here, where we just bounce around like that. Copper's looking good here. I mean, this is a really confusing layout that we've got going on across the board. Mixed signals. It's kind of like you're trying to pick up a girl. She's looking at you right in your eyes. You go to approach her, and she just shuts you down. And you're like, well, why the heck are you looking at me like that? That's kind of what I feel like the markets are at right now. We've got, copper, this is a bullish engulfing here. We've got energy that looks a little bit weak, which generally goes up when interest rates go up, which we had some weird trading going on with XOP and OIH, and kind of how we throw in a bullish engulfing 2 days ago, and then we have a big fat down candlestick with increasing interest rates. It just seems weird, and the signals that we're throwing, at least at me, feel a little bit mixed, kind of like that girl we approached. Iron ore still looks good. This is broken out of its pattern to the upside. I think we'll continue higher. That looks pretty strong. Nickel, I don't know what nickel's doing. I don't even want to look at this chart. This is just confusing there. So I'm going to blow past that. Aluminum's looking good, up 1.37%. That looks good to potentially try to go higher. We're going to hit some resistance right where we're at. Baltic Dry Index up 5.5%. This is another, I'll call it Jekyll Hyde going on right here. Big, massive moves, big volatility. We come up, we hit resistance, and now we're coming back up. 5.5% was the last trading session. So we're right in that stuckish zone for dry bulk. Coal moving down a little bit, down 2.8%. There we are, and we're almost back to that support level that I drew off the tops of these guys, which is at about 108. That's a little bit lower than where we're at today, 108. Bitcoin down slightly, ever so slightly, but again, we're just stuck. It's just stuck right there. Ethereum down a teeny bit, and it was stuck over here. So kind of funky how all these are trading in the moment. But this looks good. Doesn't look bad for Bitcoin and even Ethereum. They still look decent, and maybe we need to come back and hit that support level again. But for the most part, guys, I'm kind of just sitting here doing nothing, watching the markets, getting some big signals across the board, depending on what you're looking at. Iron ore looks strong. Copper today looks strong, putting in a bullish engulfing. We've got oil diarrheaing a little bit to the downside. Pretty strong candlestick. Same with uranium. On a day where we've got yields kind of surging higher, and yields and oil, they kind of trend together. And maybe the bond market's breaking apart from that, just from the fact that we got to sell a lot of bonds. I mean, maybe that's the case. We do have a yield curve. Let's talk about the yield curve real quick. It is inverted. Here's the 2 and 10. It is inverted, and I'm going to get this guy out of our way here. It is inverted, and a lot of the times when this thing uninverts, which it uninverted here, but we're sitting right on support, if we break lower and start to move lower, that's why I'm watching that 2-year yield. There could be a slowdown in the market. It's possible, which will impact all of these sectors. I don't think anything will be unscathed outside of maybe gold. Gold should do pretty well in that type of environment, and same with bonds. So bonds and gold would generally head higher, which is also confusing because you've got gold heading lower today at least. It's looking good though. We're sitting on top of the pattern, much like that 2-year, 10-year is sitting on top of its pattern here. So they are correlated. That's why gold's sitting on top of it, and the 2 years also. 210 is sitting on top of it, inverted. If we're going to get a slowdown, we'll see that drop. And that's what I'm using to gauge it. And you can see previous cycles, we've seen the 210 drop. And this is where we had some of these recessions were in these general areas where the circles are located. So we've got some time. It's just, are we going to head lower or are we going to move on up? What are yields going to do? And with the recent strong yield pressure lowering or buying pressure, bond prices going up, makes me, I'm looking for a potential turn. And that's where I'm kind of focusing my efforts. Are we going to turn here, or is it just a small little pullback in a big continuation up move for yields continuing higher? If the people are right in the recession camp, we would see the yield curve come down, uninvert. We would see yields drop, and bond prices go up. And that's what I'm trying to monitor at this time. So that's kind of what we've got going on. Kind of a stronger selling pressure day across the board on a lot of the individual companies. But yeah, that's what I've got. Give me a thumb up for the content, subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you guys next time. This is Finding Value.